notes set up. I have to get used to writing 21 instead of 20. It's always an adjustment. Our learning target today is I can solve algebraic equations. Okay. So I'm going to show you an example here. Negative 16 is equal to 4/5 times x plus 2. Okay. Well, if you remember back before break, and we just went over it with the entrance ticket, we talked about how to use inverse operations here. This is multiplication, this 4/5 times this whole thing. So if we want to, we can just undo that by dividing both sides by 4/5. Well, we all know that dividing by fractions is a lot of work and it gets kind of messy. Okay, so I have a different strategy for you. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides instead by the multiplicative inverse. Now, you don't need to remember that name, but what it looks like is it's just the flipped version of whatever is there. Okay, so if I do that to this side, I'm also going to do it to this side because we have to keep our equation balanced. So this right here, we're just multiplying by the inverse. Okay, let's check out what happens now. 4 divided by 4 is just 1, so those cancel out. 5 divided by 5 is just 1. And we've done what we needed to do. We got rid of the 4/5 that was being multiplied by our grouping here. And then what you're left with is x plus 2. Now let's go back and deal with this side right here. Okay, you have 5/4 times negative 16. Well, negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by, or multiplied by 5 is negative 20. Everybody follow me on that one? Kinda, maybe. The effects of PE are starting to wear off. Yeah, Sienna. Which one? This one? Yeah. Okay, so let me do it. I'm so glad you asked. Nobody ever asks, and I always feel like they need me to do it. Okay, I'm gonna do it in the margin here. Okay. So there's an imaginary one under there. And so I can do a couple things. I can cross cancel here. So this is negative 4 and 1. And then 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. But what I do mentally is I just take a look at this and I go, well, negative 16 divided by 4, and then I multiply by 5. That's usually how I do it. Everyone has their method. So as long as you have a method that works for you, you should be good to go, okay? Now let's subtract 2 from both sides and finish up this equation. And we get that x is equal to negative 22. Let's check it real quick to make sure we're good. Okay, so 20 divided by 5 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and that's a negative 16. So I know that I'm good to go. That is the solution. So instead of doing the messy division, all we did is we multiplied by the multiplicative inverse. Okay, so we just multiplied by the inverse of that fraction. Yes? Because that's what was in the parentheses here. And once I got rid of this, I still had the grouping there. So I just brought it down.
Wait, how did you get rid of the fraction?
How did I get rid of this right here?
Yeah.
I multiplied by the multiplicative inverse. So instead of dividing both sides by 4/5, which is what I showed you how to do before today, I multiplied by the inverse of this fraction. So you have 4/5. So if you multiply both sides by 5/4, like I did here, then these cancel out. And we completely get rid of that number, and we're just left with x plus 2. Does that make sense? I'm glad you asked. All right. Okay, let me show you one more way that we can apply this, and then I'll give you some practice to do. Okay. You can also apply this even if there's no parentheses. So you're just going to solve it like you normally would. The opposite of adding -3 is adding a +3. So I'm going to add 3 here and here. So -3 plus 3 is 0, which is what we wanted. And we're left with 1/3 x is equal to -8. Okay. Now, instead of dividing both sides by 1/3, because that gets messy and students tend to make a lot of mistakes when they do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by the inverse of 1/3. The inverse of 1/3 is just 3. Okay? So I'm going to multiply by 3 here, and I'm going to multiply by 3 here. Now remember, there's an imaginary 1 under that 3. It does make it, sometimes if it helps you, you can just put that little 1 under there so you can see exactly how it cancels. But 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. And so all you're left with on this side is your x. And then -8 times 3 is -24. And let's just make sure, let's check it real quick. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Oh man, I wanted you guys to practice, and that bell's gonna ring in a minute. Why don't you just write them down in your notes real quick, and then I'll give you the solution so you can try it at home and just make sure you're doing it correctly. The biggest one on this one, because I didn't do an example like this, is when you do the multiplicative inverse, make sure you're multiplying both sides by -2/3. Okay, because you need to also get rid of that negative. Bless you. Okay, so here's the problems. When you solve this one, you should, up here, you should get x is equal to 4. So just try that out. Okay, and then here, you should get that 188 is equal to x. Okay, like I said on this one, make sure that when you do the inverse there, that you multiply by -2/3. Okay, you guys can go ahead and get packed up.